So in terms of props, you're gonna want one foam roller and one magic circle, and that's it. Yeah, okay. So you'll start lying down on your backs with the foam roller under your hips, under your sacrum. The foam roller is perpendicular to your mat. You'll take your magic circle between your ankles and extend your legs up towards the ceiling. You want your hands on the sides of the roller so it doesn't roll away. And you want to allow your tailbone to drop kind of forward and down off the front side of the roller. And then you want to widen your shoulder blades and bend your elbows and try to get as much of your rib cage to touch the mat underneath you. Lift the chin off the chest. And then just take a couple of breaths, just letting your bones just kind of sink and go with gravity. You can even bend your knees just a teeny tiny bit to release any tension that might be in the back of the legs. So just taking long inhales through the nose. And then for today, exhale through the mouth. And as you exhale, just start to tone the low belly. Feel the low abdominal muscle fibers start to pull inward towards the foam roller. And feel your front hip bones start to narrow towards one another. That's mostly what you want to squeeze the circle with. And then from there, you'll just start to add squeezing the circle. And of course, your inner thighs will kick on, but you want to keep your mind focused on the low belly. You'll inhale, slightly release, and then exhale, re-engage. And as you're slowly moving and breathing, you want to start to notice, does one leg kick on a little faster than the other, or squeeze more than the other? Does one release faster than the other? So we're trying to even those sorts of imbalances out. Connecting our legs to the lower abdomen, which is the lower part of our powerhouse. The upper part of the powerhouse is more considered the shoulder girdle's connection to your abdominals, which we'll get into in a second. Last one here, and then you're gonna start to do little pulses, and so you kind of just like wanna pick your favorite pop song and just kind of get a really steady little pulse. And then as you're doing your little pulses, start to lower the legs forward and down. Keep the knees softly bent and lower down about 8 pulses. And then you'll lift back up for about 8 pulses. And I'm gonna do exhale for every pulse. So that means, again, 8 down, 8 up. The inhale will be automatic, so just really focus on using your abdominals as you exhale. One more round. And after you've done about 3 sets, you'll just simply bend both knees into the chest and then grab your circle and put your ankles on the inside of the circle. And then stretch your legs back up towards the ceiling. Again, drop the tail heavy, soften the knees a little bit. Make sure your knees are pointed backwards, not sideways. And then nice and slow, push the legs apart and take a moment just to get your mind and your side hip muscles to start to connect to each other. Noticing if you're pushing with one side more than the other. Release a little bit and then re-engage slowly, push apart and release a little bit. Exhale as you press. Inhale, release the effort. Again, the elbows are slightly bent, the knees are slightly bent. The throat is soft. The chin is lifted off the chest. 2 more times. And then the next time you push apart, you're gonna hold. Again, pick your pop song and just start to get little pulses. And once you've got the legs even and steady, then you'll do 8 little pulses down and 8 little pulses up. Again, every time you pulse, it's an exhale. You could hold at the top and take a full round of breath. Sometimes this sort of makes you feel like a little bit like you're hyperventilating. But if you can just really focus on really pushing from your hips and exhaling in a way that contracts your abdominals, then your lungs will naturally just pull the inhale back in. And after you've done 3 sets, you'll bend both knees into the chest, move the magic circle, off to the side, and then draw your legs into Pilates V. So heels together, knees open about the width of your ears, and then point your ankles, but flex your toes. The idea is if you were on the reformer, that you would be laying on your back and the balls of the feet would be on the foot bar. So you'll straighten the legs, pushing them forward on a high diagonal, and then rebend the knees into your starting position. Again, as you straighten the legs, you want to really push through the balls of the feet, but have the image in your mind as if you're sliding backwards, as if the feet are staying in the same position in a space hold, and your body is moving back away from the legs. You'll notice that when you get that little kind of paradigm shift in terms of thinking of what's moving, that different muscles kick on. We want your heels to strongly squeeze together. We want the outer hip muscles to be working strongly. So all the inner thigh and outer thigh muscles that we just woke up should be activated through this exercise. 2 more. And then the next time you bend your knees, you'll stay. Close the knees together. Flex your ankles. Curl your toes. So that's your bird on a perch. And again, if you were on the foot bar, we would ask you to wrap the toes and the heels around the foot bar, and the foot bar would be right in the center of the arch. And then same exercise, straighten and bend. Good. Really push through the heel. This one is a little bit tricky mentally to wrap your mind around. So the more you can lead with the heel and flex your ankles, the more it makes sense to your nervous system. You want to squeeze again, not just the inner thighs, but the narrowing of your front hip bones so that the legs stay connected to the lower powerhouse. We want the outer hip muscles to firmly wrap in to support the side of your sacrum. Last 2. Last 1. Bend your knees and now flex the feet fully. Flex the toes, flex the ankles, and imagine if on the soles of your feet were little eyeballs and they're surprised, right? So the eyelashes are spread, and if you even lift your eyebrows, that's fine too. So keep those really surprised eyeballs. Straighten the legs again to your point of control. But this time, as you bend the legs, imagine really kind of raking the toes through some sort of thick substance. So there's a sense of resisting as you bend. Straighten the legs and then resist as you bend. And then you're going to start to go twice as fast with the accent on the in and in. Good. So we're bending quickly and resisting at the same time. Your leg muscles, your quads will work a little bit. Your butt will work a little bit. Keep that activation of squeezing the knees together so the inner thighs are really strong, firming the outer hips, and integrating the legs into the pelvis, into your low abdomen. 3, and 2, and 1. Then straighten the legs to your point of control and hold. Can you keep your rib cage grounded so that your upper abdominals are supporting your rib cage? Then from there, you'll just simply point your feet and flex your feet. We're doing parallel legs today. Your heels are not going to touch, but I want you to keep your big toe, like the sides of your big toes touching. And if it's too intense, take your legs more up towards the ceiling. And if you need to bend the knees, bend your knees. The objective is to try to find, like, how low can the legs go without your ribs arching up? And can you keep reaching the legs longer, simultaneously sucking them into the hips more? So it's an oppositional energy of forward and backwards at the same time. Last two. Last one. And then just simply bend both knees all the way into your chest. Good. Start to throw a tantrum with your legs. Just kick one up and one down. Kind of kick your bottom. And then stretch both legs up and hold. And from here, you're going to do a scissor split. One leg back, one leg forward. And then alternate legs. But start to let it have sort of that same throw a tantrum sort of idea. Yeah. So there's a little bit of a bounce to it. A little bit of kind of a release of energy. But we're trying to move not at the knee joint anymore. We're really trying to move at the hip joint. The knees can be a little soft if you got a lot of tightness in your legs, that's fine. But just really kind of feel like you're trying to loosen up right where the thigh and the groin meet, right where the thigh bone and the pelvic bones meet. Good. One more round of breath. And then from there, just bend both knees all the way into your chest. Push the foam roller out from underneath you and rock up to a seated position. From here, you're going to turn to face the foam roller coming onto your knees, meaning knees or shins go on the foam roller. And then once you've got your shins on the foam roller, you're going to place your hands down on the mat. If this is too much wrist activity, you could come down onto your forearms. You could also put your hands on yoga blocks or put them on a settee or a couch or something that's supportive. All right, but once you've established your position, we want the hands to be about shoulder width, maybe slightly wider. We want the inner elbows to be a little bit bent. And then we want the spine to be as rounded as possible. Let the feet just sort of be floppy and soft. And really focus on tucking the chin and stretching the back of the neck. Then really focus on widening the shoulder blades and rounding the upper back. And then really focus on curling that tailbone between the legs so the lower back is as rounded as possible. Feel the inner thigh and outer hip muscles firm and your low belly suck in and up. Then exhale, drag the knees forward, the hips will lower, and then move the shins back. So we're just rolling the shins forward and back. Again, those of you familiar with being on the reformer, you can imagine there's a similarity to doing something like knee stretches. The upper body is fixed. And what I want you to focus on here is that when the knees go forward, that the crease you're really trying to work is under the bra line. So right at the base of your rib cage, where your Heimlich maneuver point is, right? That's the top of your psoas, that's the bottom of your diaphragm. And you're trying to crease or fold or bend at that junction. Take 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And then from there, just simply tuck your toes, sit back onto your heels, and then walk your hands back. So my shins are still rested on the foam roller, and my feet are as flexed as they can possibly be. Stack the shoulders over the hips, and then extend the arms straight out in front of you. You're gonna cross your right arm over your left, and we're coming into kind of like little eagle arms from yoga. So you'll bend at the elbows, and then you try to get the palms to touch. And if that doesn't happen, maybe you grab a thumb, or maybe the arms are just as close as possible. Then once you've established that arm position, I just want you to lift your shoulder blades up, and then draw your shoulder blades down. And lift the shoulder blades up, and draw the shoulder blades down. One more time, shoulder blades up, shoulder blades down. Now, keep the shoulder blades down and wide. And now just move your elbows forward and up, forward and down. So the shoulders are no longer really moving, minimally, just full disclosure, they are moving, but minimally. But try to imagine keeping the shoulder blades flat or fixed and just isolating the arm bones. One more time, and then release the arms. For some of you, this foot position is rather intense, if you need to take a moment just to kind of lift your feet up. Sometimes I just lift up, put my hands down, and I just flex and point one foot just to kind of give it a little bit of a break. And then, if possible, return to that awful position. Okay, take the opposite arm on top. So now left arm over right, bend at the elbows and try to hook the hands. If your feet and ankles are just done, then get rid of your foam roller and just come to some other seated position. It's okay. Once you've established a seated position that is sustainable, establish the arms, and then just simply slide the shoulder blades up and down the spine. Now keep the shoulder blades down and wide, and now let your elbows reach forward and up, forward and down. Feel that the upper arm is kind of cranking on the inside of the shoulders, right? You can kind of think of like a wrench or something that works in a similar way. 2 more. And then release your arms and get rid of your foam roller. Move it just off to the side somehow, some way. From here, you're gonna come onto all fours, but this time with your elbows down on the mat. Take one fist and then kind of cup the fist with the opposite hand. Notice which one you chose. Let the elbows open a little bit wider than your shoulders. And again, round your spine, rounding the neck, rounding between the shoulder blades, and curling the pelvis under as much as you possibly can. Keep the shoulder blades wide and slide the shoulder blades down towards your hips. Now we're working really on keeping the arms connection to the upper powerhouse, which is your upper abdominals and your upper back. Keeping that, extend your left leg backwards and flex that foot as much as you can. How much can you get your ankle to flex? Then from there, you're just gonna lift the leg up to roughly about hip height, and then just do little pulses. Again, kind of pick your favorite pop song, just little pulses up and down. And yes, of course, your hips are having to work quite a bit, but see if you can continue to really focus on rounding the spine and integrating the arms into your back body, feeling the shoulder blades wide and sliding downward. The inner thighs are still active, the outer hips are still active. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bend the knee, so the knees are side by side, and then keep the knee bent and open the leg out sideways, and then return it so the inner thighs squeeze together. Out and up, and lower down. So we want both of the sides of your hips, the muscles we got going with the magic circle. You want to be focused on using those side hip muscles to support your leg weight. 3, 2, 1, and then lower both knees down, sit back onto your heels, stretch the arms out, and just come into a little rest position here. Let your shoulders slide up by your ears. Spread your fingers and press them down. And then reach the hips back so you're really stretching the sides of your body, stretching your armpits. Breathe deeply in and out. Release tension where you can. One more breath. And then come back to that all fours position, again on your forearms. I'm just turning around so it's easier for you to see me. Then if you can remember, take the opposite fist, cup that fist, round the neck, round the upper back, round the lower back. The knees are only open about the width of your ears or more narrow, so don't go wider than your ears. Now you'll straighten the right leg back, try to flex at that ankle as much as you possibly can. Squeeze the inner thighs and the outer hip muscles. Widen the shoulder blades and slide the shoulder blades towards the hips. And then lift up the straight leg to roughly hip height and just do little pulses. We want the hips even here. So if you can look at your hips, you don't want one hip really higher than the other. And so the movement's pretty minimal. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, hold. And then point that foot, bend your knee, and have the knees come together. Squeeze the inner thighs. From here, open the right leg out to the side, and then squeeze the inner thighs together. Pretend you've got the magic circle and you're pushing both legs apart, and then you've got the magic circle between the inner thighs and you're squeezing the legs back together. So no matter whether the leg is going up or down, there's a sense of resistance and control. Both arms are working. You will feel more weight on the right elbow, that's normal. Scoop the belly in and up to take some pressure off of the arms. Last time. And then again, lower your hips back and down, stretch the arms nice and long, walk the hands even further, let your shoulders slide up by your head, reach the hips back and down. Take a couple of breaths, relax in your face, relax in your belly. One more breath here. And then from there, just sit back onto the heels, slowly roll up to seated. And then once you're seated, just close the eyes for a moment. Work your breath, and I just want you to visualize the 100 here. So we will do the 100 in a moment, but I just want you to visualize the 100. So visualize lying on your back, the legs extended and the arms pumping, and you're breathing. And as you're pumping the arms, can you feel these shoulder girdle muscles? As you're breathing, can you feel your lungs expanding three-dimensionally? Every inhale, they expand. And every exhale, can you feel the upper fibers of your powerhouse, meaning around that solar plexus or Heimlich maneuver point? And every exhale, can you feel the low belly muscles, the waistline muscles, engaging, corseting, supporting your lower back? Can you imagine really squeezing the inner thighs and firming the outer hips so that position becomes very long and very compact? Take just one more breath with that vision in your mind. And then let your eyes crack open.